Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a supernatural horror film, Tales from the Dark, Part 1. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie has 3 stories. The first story, entitled Stolen Goods, starts with a young ghost who is looking for a shelter to stay in. She tries her luck with a fat man, who keeps eating despite being full. Unluckily, he throws a bottle at her, which drives the young ghost to run away. An ill-fated broke man named Mr. Broke, living alone in a dark, narrow room, is having a hard time sleeping. It seems like he's out of his mind because he's talking with the 2 wide-eyed ragdolls, blaming them for his insomnia. He just had a nap when his alarm rings. He prepares for work, then puts the tools inside his bag. After work, he stops by a bake shop that sells cheap bread. Unfortunately, due to a road accident, he arrives late at work, and that disappoints his boss. He tries to explain what happened, but the boss coldly fires him. He goes home with a heavy heart, thinking that life is unfair, for it left him with nothing. He then comforts himself by talking to the ragdolls. The next day, he goes to a restaurant where he works as a server. The owner complains about his work. Then he goes out for a while, but the owner gets mad, thinking that he's resting in the middle of his duty. Eventually, she heartlessly fires him. Mr. Broke goes out to give something to the young ghost, indicating that he's aware that ghosts exist. Despite living a poor life, he doesn't want to rely on the benefit from the government. Before heading home, he drops by the bake shop to buy some bread. But to his surprise, the price has already increased. He goes home very disappointed and endlessly rants to the ragdolls. Soon after, a headline in the newspaper catches his attention. The grave of a tycoon's wife was dug out. He then thinks of a way to earn some quick cash. Immediately, he goes to the cemetery to steal the bone ash urns of the dead and asks her relatives to redeem it from him. He feels it unfair that even the dead still have a place to stay, while he who is still alive has no shelter. Mr. Broke begins to destroy the 2 of his first target. Then he lights the match to kill a centipede. Surprisingly, another centipede sticks to his shoe, which he immediately steps on. After getting the urn, he leaves a note with his phone number written on it and the amount he's asking for. As he steals, the ghosts are just silently watching him. As soon as he arrives home, he puts the urns on the shelf, hoping that their family will contact him to pay the ransom. He then writes a spell on his hammer, believing that it would drive away the bad luck. The young ghost is just watching him while he's doing his rituals. His phone rings soon. It's the son of one of those he stole an urn from. He tells Mr. Broke that he'll not give him money because it's better to lose his father's ashes since it's just a hassle to them. To his dismay, Mr. Broke immediately gets the urn and angrily flushes the ashes into the toilet. He remembers that he placed the urns on the bottom shelf, but he's surprised to see that one of them is already on the top shelf. After a while, Mr. Broke wakes up to the loud banging and voices, asking if they can stay in his room, but he rejects them. He then stands on the chair and peeks through the glass window at the door, but he's frightened when he sees a ghost. In shock, he loses his balance and falls, causing his head to bleed. Out of anger, he throws the hammer at the glass window, causing it to shatter. The ghosts run away in great fear of Mr. Broke. Moments later, he receives a call from another dead's relative, informing him that he wants to get the urn back. Mr. Broke immediately goes to a restaurant and patiently waits for the person. He hears the door open, but no one's there when he checks it. He's startled when a man introduces himself as the cousin of the urn owner. He exclaims that he's willing to deal with him because he doesn't want to add more grief to the dead's wife, since she's still mourning the sudden death of her husband. The man then gives Mr. Broke money in exchange for the urn. While he is counting it, the man asks him if he isn't afraid of ghosts. He bravely answers that being poor is much scarier than seeing ghosts. Unbeknownst to Mr. Broke, the man takes a picture of him. Mr. Broke is surprised to see that the man is no longer at the table and already stands at the restaurant's door. He then remembers the picture in the tomb and realizes that the man that he dealt with is the ghost of the urn's owner. It's revealed that on the day of the accident, the man tries to contact his wife to tell her that the apartment owner agreed to deduct the selling price, but his wife is busy working, so she just responds via text message. The man isn't able to reply because the traffic light has already turned green. After a while, he immediately steps on the brake to avoid the truck that overtakes him. Unfortunately, he's hit by a van which causes his tragic death. Surprisingly, the man's accident is the one that Mr. Broke witnessed in the past. The man's wife is devastated by her husband's death, so even if it's impossible, she leaves his phone inside the urn, hoping to talk to him even for a short time. Meanwhile, Mr. Broke gets angry to see what the man paid him is the fake money offered to the dead. It seems like he has already lost his mind because he burns the fake money in a bowl and continuously stirs it with his hammer. The young ghost and other spirits are terrified of what's happening. Unluckily, the ashes end up in the fireworks, causing Mr. Broke to be burned alive inside his small room. Later on, the police find out the cemetery was robbed. Soon after, the wife arrives and is surprised to see that her husband's tomb is ruined, but the urn is still there. She cannot explain why her husband's phone isn't inside the urn anymore, so she immediately turns it on and sees the picture of Mr. Broke that her husband took in the restaurant. It turns out the young ghost has a twin sister, and they're living inside the ragdolls. The restaurant owner helps the twin ghosts to be reunited and punishes the fat man for his sins when he was still alive. The story ends with Mr. Broke and the twin ghosts holding the ragdolls, walking freely on the streets. The second story, entitled A Word in the Palm, starts with a fortune teller who has the ability to see ghosts. The fortune teller is at the restaurant with his wife to inform her that he's going to retire from his job as a fortune teller. His wife is very happy upon hearing the good news. Because of his fortune-telling job and the fact that he can see ghosts, he becomes distant from his family. So finally, he decides to focus on the family as well as teaching music. Later on, his wife hands him a CD with a recording of his son's performance that won in a prestigious piano competition. The fortune teller is very proud of his son's achievement, but he's a bit hurt when his wife mentions that he should thank her for pushing their son to study piano rather than the Chinese instruments just like his father. To lighten the mood, his wife invites him out with his son for dinner. The fortune teller is very happy and promises to listen to the CD. He also asks for additional CDs to give to his customers as a gift on his last day at work. Suddenly, the fortune teller sees a young ghost sitting in front of a couple. She has a white face and red eyes and seems to be soaking wet. He's surprised when an insect comes out of her eye and lands on his hand. He knows that his wife is afraid of ghosts, so he tries to tell her calmly, but she freaks out when a hand holds her shoulder. The hand belongs to the fortune teller's friend, Ms. Psychic, who's selling lucky charms. Ms. Psychic wishes to have the ability to see ghosts. She even purchased contact lenses that were said to help detect spirits. The fortune teller was first able to see ghosts due to his sickness at his young age, but he stopped seeing them when he recovered. However, recently he started seeing them again. Ms. Psychic encourages him to work for her, but he refuses because he doesn't want to scare his wife anymore. After a while, the fortune teller and Ms. Psychic go back to their respective shops. While he's listening to his son's performance, he suddenly smells something bad. He then finds Mr. Hormone, a swim class coach, and his pregnant wife. They visit the shop because his wife feels that a ghost is following her. Before the fortune teller entertains them, he marks his son's CD with a star. The fortune teller then remembers they're the couple he saw in the restaurant that the young ghost had haunted. He asks them if they visited the beach because he smells seawater when they enter. Mr. Hormone says that it might be him because he taught in a swim class early this morning. His wife remembers that recently she usually smells seawater and a rotten odor. The fortune teller knows that their case is complicated because it involves ghosts, but since it's his last day at work, he refers them to Ms. Psychic. Before the couple go out, Mr. Hormone gets many CD, thinking that the fortune teller is a swindler. He accompanies the couple to Ms. Psychic's store and goes back to his shop where a schoolgirl's waiting. As they talk, the fortune teller notices that the compass that detects ghosts is acting weird. The schoolgirl says that she's a swimmer in their school. The fortune teller already feels there's something off, so he asks how he can help her. She then answers that she would like to know if her boyfriend will stay with her forever. The fortune teller asks for her left palm to read her fortune, but she refuses. He just asks for other information, and while he's checking his book, he's surprised to see the schoolgirl's face turns into a horrific ghost, but changes back to normal after a while. The fortune teller realizes the ghost he saw in the restaurant is the same schoolgirl, and she might be connected with Mr. Hormone. That's why she keeps on following the couple. While Ms. Psychic is talking to Mr. Hormone and his wife, she sees the schoolgirl pass by her store, but suddenly disappear. The fortune teller then calls Ms. Psychic to his shop and explains everything. Ms. Psychic is extremely happy because finally she can see ghosts. The fortune teller concludes that the schoolgirl died drowning because of the water and sand on the chair where she sat. After a while, Ms. Psychic comes in with her report, confirming the schoolgirl is studying in the school where Mr. Hormone teaches. The fortune teller advises her to dig more information and check if there's a schoolgirl that committed suicide by that sea. Ms. Psychic will set up a crystal formation in Mr. Hormone's apartment to cast out negative spirits. She asks for the fortune teller's help in resolving the case, but he refuses because he's determined to quit his job. Meanwhile, the fortune teller cannot find his son's performance CD, so he listens to all this CD just to find it. Ms. Psychic suddenly arrives, telling him a rotten body of a pregnant schoolgirl is found floating in the harbor. The body belongs to the schoolgirl, and Mr. Hormone has confirmed she's one of their students. It's revealed that the schoolgirl is his secret hormone partner. She committed suicide because Mr. Hormone left her when he found out she's pregnant. At the moment, Mr. Hormone's pregnant wife is in their house. After a while, she sees a footprint on the floor and smells something bad. Eventually, the schoolgirl appears, singing her swim team's anthem. The wife is frightened because she sees the schoolgirl crying blood by the crib. Soon after, the fortune teller calls Mr. Hormone to ask if he accidentally took his son's CD. But he's disoriented because he worries a lot, since his wife isn't answering his calls. As Ms. Psychic prepares the crystals used to drive away ghosts, the fortune teller decides to accompany her to Mr. Hormone's house, as he really needs to get his son's CD back. Finally, Mr. Hormone arrives home, followed by the fortune teller and Ms. Psychic. Mr. Hormone then confirms that he had a hormone affair with the schoolgirl, because he can't control his surplus hormones. The fortune teller tries to negotiate with the schoolgirl, and finally, she allows them to enter, except for Mr. Hormone. As soon as they enter the house, Ms. Psychic checks on Mr. Hormone's wife, while the fortune teller continues to talk to the schoolgirl. He finds the opportunity to hold the schoolgirl and draw a mark on her wrist as he forces her to open her hand. Soon he finds the schoolgirl doesn't like to open her palm, because Mr. Hormone scribbled love there. But it's rotten since it's not sincere, but just for me. At long last, the fortune teller and Ms. Psychic convince her to move on, then the lights turn off as the schoolgirl goes back to the sea. The story ends with the fortune teller eating happily in a restaurant with his family. When his wife goes to the laboratory, his son expresses his sadness that his shop is closed. It's then revealed that his son inherits his ability to see ghosts, but he keeps it a secret from his wife because he doesn't want to scare her. The last story, entitled Jingzeg, starts with an old villain hitter called Grandma for short. In Jingzeg Festival, the villain hitting ritual is part of the tradition. Many people visit the villain hitters, hoping to obtain a stroke of luck for themselves and misfortune for others. A rich lady goes to Grandma, demanding to curse her husband's pregnant lover for ruining her marriage, and also her daughter-in-law for mistreating her. As Grandma beats and curses the paper effigy of the lover, the rich lady stops her and asks to beat the picture instead. She also gives the wedding picture of her son, but rips her son's face off and leaves his wife and their friends to be beaten. She also asks her to beat them harder, including the innocent baby inside the womb of her husband's lover. Grandma agrees to all the rich woman's requests in exchange for a higher fee. The rich lady is a bit hesitant if the ritual is really effective, so Grandma says they won't be visited by many people if it isn't effective, then hands her a flyer that explains the cultural history. The rich lady suddenly leaves without paying, which really angers Grandma, so she splashes rice around the area to drive away bad luck. When the rich lady returns to her car, she sees a distressed woman who isn't wearing the other pair of her sneakers, but when she looks back, she vanishes into thin air. It's then revealed that the distressed woman is a young sexy ghost, nicknamed Ghost Sexy, who seeks revenge for her tragic death. Grandma is exhausted after dealing with her customers, but when she's about to call it a day, Ghost Sexy pleads to be her last customer. It seems like Grandma knows her because she gets nervous after seeing her. Ghost Sexy tells Grandma she would like to curse 4 people. When Grandma gets the paper effigy of 4 men, she clarifies that it's 3 men and 1 woman. So Grandma changes the last paper effigy to a woman. When she's about to beat them, Ghost Sexy says that she wants to beat them herself. So Grandma gives her the wooden slipper. She looks blankly at Grandma as she hits the paper effigies. Suddenly, she gives Ghost Sexy her missing sneakers and asks her to move on and accept her fate. But instead of wearing the sneakers, she uses it to hit the paper effigies. It's then revealed that Grandma saw her being kidnapped by bad people, but instead of reporting it to the police, she turned a blind eye and covered up the crime, because her son is one of the persons who murdered and raped Ghost Sexy. Meanwhile, tragic things happen to the murderers, as the rich lady reads the flyer that Grandma gave her and after Ghost Sexy hits the paper effigies. While the first murderer is having a massage, Ghost Sexy forcibly pulls him into the hole of the bed, where he vomits lots of blood, which causes his death. Upon his death, one of the 4 candles loses its spark. Next is the murderer, who is busy playing with his friends on the rooftop. Suddenly, he quits playing, then jumps off the building. He hits a bus, then his beheaded body falls to the street and goes into a boiling pot. Upon his death, another candle loses its spark. The next one is Grandma's son. While he's in the elevator with his family, Ghost Sexy holds his wife and son to hinder them from going out. Grandma calls his son to warn him, but it's too late. A large metal from a car crash hits him, causing his gruesome death. Afterward, another candle loses its spark. Finally, the woman paper effigy is revealed to be Grandma herself. Suddenly, she's run over by a speeding car. Then the last candle loses its spark. Immediately, people help lift the car to get Grandma out of there. When Grandma begs her to allow her son to live, Ghost Sexy stops hitting the paper effigy, and then the last candle ignites again. Instead of saving Grandma's son, the sexy ghost spares Grandma's life for her to live with guilt. The story ends with the rich lady reading the last phrases in the flyer and Ghost Sexy walking alone wearing her sneakers. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.